The film noir stealth game. Calvino Noir is the exploratory, sneaking adventure through the 1930s European criminal underworld. Architecture meets noir as you become unwillingly entangled in a revolutionist plot. Welcome to episode 36 of the 5 T's of Stealth, where we will be discussing Calvino Noir. Once again, the 5 T's include tasks, terrain, tools, threats, and tension. These are what I consider to be the fundamentals of stealth gaming. In this game, there are 7 chapters across 3 acts. Your objective in Act 1 is to prove the corruption of a government official named Ignaz. However, it turns out that he is being blackmailed by a big corporation known as Randane Tech. Your objective then changes to helping Ignaz and his daughter escape, then setting your sights on Randane. It's a very simple story about this big corporation blackmailing different politicians and whatnot in order to get what they want. I'm not really going to dive into it more than that. The objectives are about what you'd expect in a game all about uncovering corruption. You'll be sneaking into different locations to find incriminating documents, operate some machinery to steal heavy equipment, including canisters from factories, search patents to find where canisters are being manufactured, locate essential personnel, and more. Calvino Noir is a very simple game, but the vibes are immaculate. The map design here gets pretty old pretty quickly. The variety of locations is pretty solid, but regardless, traversing through each level feels the exact same. You'll start in a library, then move on to a train station, a metalwork plant, a factory, an old distillery, and more. I do want to specifically mention the National Science Academy, not because it's a standout location, but because it's the NSA, and since I just finished a few Splinter Cell games, hearing the NSA was a minor delight. But as I was saying, these levels basically feel identical with just a different backdrop or more rooms. Not to mention, there are so many damn staircases that it feels like you're more often walking upstairs than doing anything else. This isn't just one flight of stairs, mind you. This is like a continuous staircase that goes up several stories, almost like you decided to take the stairs instead of the elevator at a hotel. Speaking of elevators, those are also an option, but in a stealth game, I don't love using them since it feels like I give away some of my control. Long story short, level design is fine, but feels very repetitive. I somehow hadn't realized that this was a point-and-click game, but it is, and therefore, it's the first of its kind in the 5 T's of Stealth. This game features several playable characters who have different abilities. But before that, let's talk about the shared mechanics. There are 4 toggleable abilities. First, there is a torch, or a flashlight, which can also be seen by guards. I pretty much never had this on, but my understanding is that it is more so used for finding hidden objects as there are collectible coins in each level. I didn't care about these coins, and therefore my torch was basically always off. The second ability is to simply toggle sprint. Sprinting is louder and can alert guards. The third ability is just switching between characters, and the fourth and final simply creates a link between the characters. In other words, if you turn on the link, then click on a location, all the characters will move towards that location. This seemed to be based on proximity, so only characters close to the character you were currently controlling would move. Sadly, this seemed to fall apart a bit, since the other characters would have a short delay before they started moving, and your character would then get too far away and break the link, making this another ability I basically avoided. Aside from these 4 abilities, all the characters can open or close doors, operate elevators, climb ladders, and hide in designated hiding spots. Now, let's switch gears and talk about the different characters and their unique mechanics. You start with Wilt, who is the only character able to knock out guards. Next is the Mole, who does not alert guards and can walk around freely. However, there is the occasional restricted area that even the Mole can't walk freely through. You're then able to play as Arno, who can operate machinery. Next is Siska, who can lockpick doors and look through keyholes to reveal the next room. Finally, you do play as Ignaz for 1 or 2 missions, but he has no special mechanic. I'm all for limiting mechanics to certain characters, but in this game, at times it felt ridiculous. Only 1 guy can knock out guards. Sure, I'm all for that. Only 1 guy can lockpick doors. Again, sure, I'm all for that. But only 1 guy can turn a damn wheel handle? That's absurd. I cannot believe that turning a wheel counts as operating machinery and that only Arno can do it. Another example would be picking up a toolbox. Only Arno can click on this toolbox, and while I understand that the other characters may not know what specific tool he needs, they could have easily carried the whole thing back to him. Honestly, even looking through the keyhole being locked to one character felt a little ridiculous. I totally understand the lockpicking, but to just look through a hole? Really? Do you really need to lock that to a single character? Speaking of character swapping, it also got a little annoying switching to Siska, for example, because every time you switch to her, she has to let out some voice lines such as, "Do you mind?" or "They'll never win." This isn't a big complaint, and it's almost not worth mentioning, but it was something minor that started to wear on me. Security guards will make up your main enemy in this title. Detection is okay, as guards will shoot you pretty quickly once they see you. They have a detection meter above their heads that will slowly fill up from sounds, but if they see you, it's pretty much an instant lock on. However, I did find that losing guards can be pretty easy. There were times when I just ran to another room and shut the door, and then the guard chasing me would come up to the door and lose interest and return to his patrol. If guards are alerted from sound, they will have a question mark over their heads and investigate where the sound came from, then proceed to investigate the immediate area before giving up and returning to their patrol. I also discovered that moving between ladders can really destroy the guard's AI. If a guard is climbing up a ladder chasing after you, then you can actually just get back onto the ladder and the guard will just freeze there as if he's still chasing you. It was almost a little exploit with Wilt where I could bait a guard, then hop on the ladder to confuse him, then quickly get off the ladder and ambush the guard once they did the same. Camping at the bottom of a ladder feels a little ridiculous, but that's absolutely what I did. Seriously, getting away from these guys was very doable. In addition, the guards don't seem to react to bodies, but they can react to the sound of another guard getting choked out and then start to investigate near the body. Calvino Noir is certainly not a difficult game. Honestly, the hardest part of this game is remembering to hide all of your characters. There were several times where I was sneaking through as Wilt, knocking out guards, which would cause another guard to start investigating the area and then stumble on the other characters I wasn't using, shoot them, and force a restart from checkpoint. I'm definitely not used to managing several characters in this way, and because of that, it did trip me up a few times, although it was a pretty easy adjustment to make. Another frustration would be the long animation or transition your characters would make when going into a hiding place or moving up the stairs. It just felt really awkward and forced a delay, which ended up screwing me more than once. Another frustration was waiting for pop ups so you could click on them and have your character complete a specific task. The main example of this would be with Wilt and knocking out guards. Sometimes you'd be in the perfect position, just staring, waiting for the pop up. This would also be an issue when I had Wilt sprint at an enemy once their back was turned, because Wilt would easily close the gap, but sometimes he would do it too quickly, so you didn't have time to click on the knockout pop up. I really just don't have a lot to say about this game. It's decent enough, but aside from the vibes, there's just not a lot that stands out to me. Character kits are extremely simplistic, the story is fine, enemies are fine, and the maps are repetitive. I think what was missing most from this game was a strong hook. I think they kind of go all in on the vibes, the noir aspect. But while they are incredible, it's nowhere near enough to carry this entire experience. Calvino Noir is fine, but there's really nothing about it compelling enough to warrant recommending. I don't really like the whole point and click mechanics, since it really feels like I have very minimal control of my characters. However, I will say that this game has opened my eyes a bit to the prospect of switching characters for different tasks.